Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen ruined my son's car. I'm pressing charges. After that, am I the jerk for not letting my homeless brother live with me? And after that, I left the restaurant after my boyfriend started drinking his juice with 3 straws. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to destroy anyone's car. Can't destroy your car if you don't even have one, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen ruined my son's car. I'm pressing charges. I'm 39, male, and my son, 17, Bryce, dated our neighbor Lana, who's 17, for a year. They broke up mid-January for reasons I don't know. I won't sugarcoat this. I never liked Lana. She always seemed a little unhinged, controlling and aggressive. She's always demanding Bryce's attention, and there were quite a few times when she showed up to our house out of nowhere, whether it was 7 a.m. or 11 p.m., because Bryce wasn't answering his phone, screaming and calling him a cheater when it wasn't even like that. The thought of our son being mistreated by his girlfriend made us worry so much. My wife and I tried to talk him out of that relationship. We said how it wasn't normal nor healthy. We didn't want to force the breakup because we feared Lana would lash out to him, so we tried to do it in a sneaky way. We don't know if it worked, but they ended up breaking up. He said that after he broke up with her, Lana didn't contact him, which was weird because he was expecting her to go nuts. But I told him that if fate didn't care, he better not tease it. Now, the problem is that we bought my son a car for Christmas. Nothing fancy, but enough to get him to school, his job, and eventually college. He parks it in our driveway outside our home. Ever since the month began, we had been finding scratches all over the car. We knew Lana was doing it, but since it was minimal, my son decided not to do anything, even if we could prove that it was her. We have cameras. Still, something smelled bad for me, so I decided to switch one of the cameras facing his car directly, just in case. Well, 2 weeks ago, we got up and found my son's car covered in a lot of crap. Paint, glue, feathers, confetti. The door handles were wrecked. Flat tires, paint all over the windows. You get the picture. Bryce and my wife were so distraught. We called the police, and I handed them the security camera footage that showed Lana and her brother, 23 male, destroying my son's car. We pressed charges, and needless to say, Lana's brother went straight to jail. But since she's still a minor, her parents want to make a deal, but I refused. I don't think she should get a way out. Before the police were here, she was laughing her face off, and she tried to play it cool. If she thought this was funny, then she's old enough to face the consequences. My wife and I plan to stand our ground. They said they'll buy my son a better car and put Lana on therapy, but it is not enough. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This is the wake-up call that she needs. This is also the wake-up call that her brother and her parents need. I can't picture my very much adult brothers helping me wreck my ex's car just because I'm bitter. They'd rather snitch to my parents and help me avoid getting time in jail than being the cool bro. Not the jerk. I could see the older brothers going along with it if she lied to them about why she was doing it. Revenge for cheating, for example. I can see that. She seems like the type to make up a crazy story so her brother would help her get her revenge. Well, what do you think? Should OP press charges on Lana or not? Please let us know. I'd let it go as long as they buy my son a DeLorean. Am I the jerk for not letting my homeless brother live with me? I'm adopted, but my brother and sister are the biological kids. I've had some issues in my teenage years, and I wasn't the perfect kid, but my brother was a bit wild too. However, since I'm the adopted one, my siblings have always given me extra crap for my failings. A few years ago, Dad got sick, so I moved home to help him and Mom out. I contributed to bills, took care of Dad, took care of the dogs, cooked every day, cleaned, and worked full-time myself, and just really tried to be as helpful as possible. I even offered to pay rent, but my mom said no. Cut to me having a car accident, going to pick up Dad's meds, and Dad and Mom buying me a used car so I could keep taking Dad to appointments and as a thank you for all the help. Well, my siblings came for that Christmas, heard about the car, and freaked out. They said I didn't deserve anything and that I was using Mom and Dad. My brother cornered me and said as soon as Dad passed, I had a month to move out and stop leeching off of Mom, or else. Dad passed shortly after that Christmas, and I began planning my move and Mom was really upset. She kept pushing for me to stay, but in the back of my head, I had my brother's threat and just didn't feel comfortable staying. I ended up getting a place just up the street so I could still help her. After I moved, I ended up getting really lucky financially. I was, within a year of renting, able to buy a house near Mom and have been doing well for myself. Last year, my mom's sister, who was also recently widowed, came to live with her and brought her 2 grandkids she is the guardian of, so my mom's house is full and she's happy. I help out and watch the kids a lot and still do most of the house maintenance stuff, so I'm over a lot. On one of my visits, my mom and aunt were discussing what to do because my brother needed to move home since his wife kicked him out. I offered to get the kids bunk beds and help move them into one room, and my mom was very grateful. A week later, my brother called asking if he could just live with me since he didn't want to share a house with 2 kids. I have a spare room, but I don't want to live with him. He's treated me like crap for over 10 years at this point and never has a nice thing to say, behind my back usually, from my teenage years when I was struggling. He's vocal about not considering me family. He said he doesn't even want me at our mom's funeral or in her will. I don't want anything from her and never ask for anything. She just offers things sometimes. The animosity is palpable. I would offer to take in one of the kids, but they're young and need to be with their caretaker, so I think he just needs to suck it up and stay at my mom's. My mom knows how he is to me and would never ask me to take him in, but my aunt is confused why I wouldn't offer that, as it makes sense and another person in my mom's house will make it cramped. Some friends are saying that after all my mom has done for me, I should suck it up and let her son, my brother, stay with me, but I really don't want to. Does that make me the jerk? Not the jerk. He's incredibly cruel to you. Time for him to reap what he sowed. Tell your aunt why you won't let him stay, and she will no longer be confused. This seems like a straightforward, not the jerk situation. You know you aren't. He treats you like crap, and as far as he's concerned, he's not even your family. What do you owe him? He can sleep on a curb. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let your brother live with you or not? Please let us know. I'd help him find a used tent on eBay. I left the restaurant after my boyfriend started drinking his juice with 3 straws. Might not seem like a huge deal, but here's some context. I, female 30, have been with my boyfriend, male 32, for a few months. Unlike him, I come from a well-off background, and last week I invited him out to an upscale restaurant for a dinner together. We got there, sat down at our table, and chatted for some time. He ordered some orange juice, then asked the waitress to bring him 2 more straws besides the one he had with the juice. I was puzzled. I asked if he was expecting one of his friends, and he laughed and said, "Oh no, not after what they did to me last night." I was like, "What?" but watched to see what he was doing. The waitress came back with the 2 straws, then took our orders. The minute she walked away, my boyfriend put the other 2 straws in his juice and basically started sipping with the 3 straws, making an unbelievably absurd and annoying sound. I was floored. I asked what he was doing and why. He nonchalantly smiled and said he could drink it faster this way. I got mad and quite embarrassed because people were literally side-eyeing me since I'm a regular. I told him to stop, but he didn't. I said that I'd leave if he wouldn't, and he made eye contact and kept sipping. I had it. I said I wasn't going to continue to be humiliated any longer and grabbed my stuff and made my way out. He shouted for me to wait, but I didn't. 30 minutes later, he started rage texting me about how I overreacted and how I keep ruining good times worrying about what those snobs think. Then talked about how ridiculous I was to walk out like that and repeatedly texted about how I should just stop being a pretentious snob just because I hang around them, which I find really offensive. He expected me to apologize for making a scene and walking out like that over something so stupid and harmless. Not the jerk. What he was doing was obnoxious and you asked him to stop. He refused. You told him what the consequences would be if he continued, and he apparently accepted them until you followed through. Dump him and find an adult to date. If the boyfriend wants to look obnoxious and draw attention by making noises, he can do that at home. Instead, he deliberately made a scene and refused to stop even after being told not to. It's asking the bare minimum at an upscale restaurant to have basic table manners, not snobbery. Agreed, not the jerk. OP, don't think that you're exempt from his lumping you in with the other pretentious snobs. He's already told you what he thinks of you, and is now expecting you to lower your etiquette standards so he can freely act like a kid. His plan is to mooch off of you while simultaneously shaming you for being better off than him. Am I the jerk for taking my mother's side over my wife's over childcare and future plans? My wife and I have 3 kids between the ages of 2 and 8. I also have 3 other siblings who have kids as well. My parents love being grandparents, but are really busy. My mom is currently the president of a fiber arts guild in her local area and travels a lot to shows, conferences, and visits other guilds in their national network. She's also flown around and asked to teach classes even internationally and got a diploma from people who do embroidery for the Queen of England, literally. Growing up, my mother was a stay-at-home mom, but after we grew up, she got really involved with her crafts, and my dad, who is retired, is super supportive and travels with her to these conferences and was her campaign manager when she went for president. His reasoning is that she supported his career all those years, so now it's his turn to take on the support role, so he travels with her and jokes that he's her secretary now. My mom recently expressed wanting to get her bachelor's degree in this particular field, and the course is only taught in the UK. We are in another part of Europe, so my dad and mom want to move to London for 3 years using the money they got from downsizing the family home. My siblings and I are a bit disappointed that we won't have our parents around as much, but we also understand how much our mom has given up to raise us and how much she loves her crafts. The problem for my wife and I is that my parents were a huge source of childcare for us during the times they were free. My parents live in a different country, and so they can't be as involved as they like. My nieces and nephews have another set of grandparents who are hands-on. My wife feels that it's unfair of my parents to move to London like this when our kids are young and need their grandparents the most for a degree that my mom doesn't need to use because she already teaches classes and she's president of a guild. So getting a bachelor's won't actually help in any way, and my parents are just draining the money they got from the sale of our family home. She expressed this to my mom last Saturday over dinner, and my mom is now hurt and wavering on her decision. My siblings are furious at my wife, and we ended up leaving the dinner because while things didn't turn into a shouting match, my wife was basically told she had no say in this because it wasn't her mom and she wasn't family. I thought that was a harsh thing to say to my wife, but I also think our issues shouldn't be factored in my mom pursuing her dreams. My wife basically told her that being a grandmother should be the most important thing in her life. Now my wife is angry with me for not backing her up when my siblings told her to butt out, and for agreeing that my parents should go to London for 3 years even though it's going to make things harder for us. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your wife is really entitled. Grandparents are great if they can provide childcare, but they shouldn't be made to feel guilty for enjoying their own life. Getting childcare is you and your wife's responsibility, not your parents'. Your mom deserves to do what makes her happy to without the guilt. Edit. Also, my not the jerk was about him supporting the mother. OP is now arguing and name-calling in the comments for people agreeing with his decision, which is bizarre and seriously misplaced. He's also the jerk for that. Not the jerk. Your wife gets no say in this. Neither do you or your siblings. Your mother makes her own choices. Kids don't need their grandparents. Grandparents are a luxury. Your wife is just mad about losing access to all the free childcare. Not the jerk. 1. You and your wife are not entitled to your parents' time. 2. Your wife should have discussed this thoroughly with you in private first, so you had a shared plan before talking to your mom. 3. Because she didn't do number 2, you got caught between supporting your wife or supporting the right decision. That's your wife's fault. So none of this is your fault. You're not the jerk. You can't move away and enjoy your life. We need to use you to watch our kids. Gotta love these Karens. Unknown number accused me of being a thief. So here's the story. It's 3:08 in the morning. I get a call from an unknown number. I answer and the person started screaming at me. I automatically hang up on them because being 17 and suddenly being screamed at over the phone really does something to you. Not even 6 minutes later, I get these texts. We've got them, the jerk, and we've got me, Jace. Jerk. Hello? Why did you hang up? Me. Who is this? Why are you calling me at such a late hour? This is the boss of the store you work at. Me. Dude, I'm only 17. I don't have a job yet. Please stop harassing me. I didn't get a response after that. So 6:02 rolls around and I'm still in bed trying to rest from being woken up so early. I get 21 missed calls from the same number threatening me, saying they're going to tell corporate that I'm stealing money and food out of the store and they will have me fired. Then they threatened to call the police and have me arrested for stealing over $300 from the cash register. I do not work yet. I text the number and the following conversation goes. Me: will you please stop texting and calling me? I do not work for your company. I do not work at all. I'm 17 and I'm still trying to finish high school. Jerk: don't lie to me. I know you work for us, or else I wouldn't have your number. Me: maybe the employee you hired gave you a false number. This is a private number. Don't lie to me, Jim. Me: my name is not Jim. I do not work for you. Leave me alone before I report you to the police for harassment. They proceeded to call me 10 more times before giving up. I went online and filed a report on the number. Turns out that the number wasn't even real. It was coming from an app that could be easily erased. What kind of sicko does this stuff? I would show the screenshots, but I deleted the messages because I was sick of looking at them. Am I the jerk for insisting that my husband drives my mother-in-law to the hospital instead of calling an ambulance? My mother-in-law was at our house a couple days ago to see some new furniture I bought. She fainted and fell off on her back. My husband freaked out and went straight to call an ambulance. I told him that he should drive her to the hospital himself since his car was working instead of paying X amount of money for an ambulance. He said no and insisted on an ambulance. I tried to convince him since the hospital wasn't far, but he blew up at me and said that his hands were shaking and he couldn't drive her there. He yelled at me to move out of the way and called her an ambulance. I decided to step back, but I was pretty mad. He went with her and got back in the evening. He started going off on me about how I behaved while his mom was injured. I replied that there was no need to waste money on an ambulance ride, especially since mother-in-law was conscious, and also since we had his car and he could have driven her there himself. He lashed out, saying that he was in no state to drive, and that I was ridiculous to care about how much an ambulance ride cost instead of his mom's health. I told him it's my house too, and he should get my input on whether to call an ambulance or not. Besides that, we have a policy to only call ambulances for the people who live in the house, not visitors. He said I was mistaken for getting in his face and insisting there was no need for an ambulance. He's been sulking, claiming that I don't care about his mom's well-being and I only care about money, and he's refusing to let it go. Am I the jerk? This is one of the dumbest things I've read on Reddit, and that's saying a lot. You actually have a policy to only call an ambulance for the people who live in your house, but not for visitors? Could you be any more of a jerk? Who actually plans for emergencies ahead of time in regards to who you will call an ambulance for? Sorry you fell and broke your hip, Grandma. Walk it off and rub some dirt on it, then get in the car because you don't live here. Yes, you're the jerk. A huge one. Besides, you know who pays for the ambulance ride? The person who needs to be transported, not the person whose house they come to. You're the jerk, OP. I know, right? She acts like she's the one who's going to have to pay for it. What a jerk. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. Customer orders large amount of material, goes somewhere else without canceling to save a few bucks. This happened a while ago. I work as a delivery driver for a building supply store. I have one of the highest driver's licenses and a crane operator certification, so I was the only one who could do this delivery. The customer had ordered a large amount of material one week with the request for it to be delivered the first of the next week. Some of the stuff he wanted we didn't have, so it had to get ordered in. The weekend before the delivery, I had gathered all the material and separated it into different piles because it was going to 2 different floors of a house, and to also make it easier for my crane to handle safely. I spent probably over an hour properly organizing and collecting the order. The Monday comes and order said to call before going. So I give the customer a call and he goes, "Oh, I didn't want it ordered. I just wanted it quoted." I was annoyed, thinking a store worker who took the order messed up. So after I was finished talking to the customer, I looked at the order to see who made it. That's when things began to get odd. The person who did the order is not one to make a mistake like that. Unfortunately, they were off that day, so I had to wait until the next day to talk to them. The next day they come in and tell them what happened. The worker was mad, saying things I really can't put here. But short story, they were extremely mad at the customer, saying, "I know the difference between the words quote and order," and they asked for it to be delivered. So they phoned the customer, and I heard later on when things came to light, they really let the customer have it. Apparently he did order it, but after he ordered it, he went somewhere else, and this other place offered him 5 cents per each individual piece of material cheaper than we were. I did the math. For everything he ordered, he saved himself $6, and for whatever reason, he felt it was better to pretend that we misheard and say he wanted a quote rather than just calling and canceling his order. And apparently, this was the second time this customer had done something like that. They said they were flagging his account. That way, they know if he orders again to not do anything until there is a guarantee he wants it. I suggested he should be charged a non-refundable fee of $20 whenever he orders, or a restocking fee, but nothing ever came of that. Am I the jerk for stating I will not financially provide for my sister-in-law after my mother-in-law passes away? My sister-in-law is the oldest of 4 siblings, but lives at home with mother-in-law still paying a lot of sister-in-law's bills. Sister-in-law is 60 years old, works full-time, doesn't have to pay food or rent, and still borrows money from one sibling every 2 weeks. She no longer requests money from us, but that's a different story. Sister-in-law makes more money than I do. She just blows through it as soon as she can get her hands on it. My mother-in-law told me that my husband will agree to support sister-in-law after mother-in-law is gone because that's what family does. I said absolutely not. It isn't our job to pay her way so she can get her nails done every 2 weeks and eat at restaurants 2 times a day, plus travel to an expensive theme park to spend time with her grandbabies. Grandbabies live in the same town. Travel isn't required to see them. My mother-in-law has decreed that I am a selfish jerk because I would not agree to take care of a woman 15 years my senior. If she were disabled or legitimately unable to work, I'd be fine paying the monthly power bill or buying her groceries. The only reason we have money and a nice house is because we don't blow money. Am I the jerk for saying no to this plan? My husband agrees he will not support sister-in-law just so she can spend her money to do fun stuff. The conflict it is causing is between me and mother-in-law because I'm vocal about saying no. It's causing conflict in his family because we have money, and somehow that means we should be responsible. Not the jerk. Time for your husband to set boundaries with your mother-in-law. OP. She wouldn't listen. She just says I'm making him say all these things. I don't visit anymore because I'm tired of hearing it. Not the jerk. If sister-in-law has grandbabies, why isn't mother-in-law pressuring sister-in-law's kids to take care of her? Not that I think that's the right answer either, but it's interesting that mother-in-law thinks it's your husband's job to take care of her instead of, sister-in-law's family, if family is so important. Karen's sister acts like she's pregnant even though she's not. I, 35, female, am pregnant with my sister's 30 female child. My sister has some fertility issues and is not able to have a safe pregnancy. I offered to carry the baby for her and her husband. I'm now currently 6.5 months along and everything is going well. Once we found out I was pregnant, my sister made the decision to live like she herself is the one who was pregnant. I found it odd, but I didn't see an issue with it. I understood that she's going through an emotional time. I mainly thought this was going to be something just between her and her husband. I was wrong, and she's begun to act pregnant in her daily life. At first, it was just small things, like having her husband run out to get her food she was craving, but it developed into things like wearing maternity wear. She also gets annoyed if I talk about my cravings or pregnancy symptoms around her. These things don't bother me much, and I just think my sister wants to feel involved. Today, my sister wanted to go shopping to look at baby things since the stores have reopened in our area. The day started with her getting angry whenever sales staff would talk to me. I would explain to the salesperson that my sister is the mother whenever it was needed. After a few stores, we arrived at a baby retailer where she wanted to make a baby registry. By this point, I was extremely tired and wanted to go home. I had told my sister this, and she promised this would be the last store. I must have looked exhausted because as we were waiting, the salesperson brought over a chair for me to sit in while the registry paperwork was done. When she brought it over, she did say something like, "Here's a chair for mom." I didn't correct the salesperson this time and just sat down. My sister told me to get up and give her the chair after I had sat down. I asked her why and tried explaining that I was tired. My sister berated me by saying that the salesperson said the chair was for the mom and that she was supposed to sit. She said that this was her registry appointment and how dare I act like this was all about me. She said she was the one who was the expectant mother and that she needed to sit down now. I told my sister that yes, she is going to be the mother, but I am the one that is currently pregnant. I snapped at her that she is not actually pregnant and does not get how exhausting it can be. I told her I'm trying my best to appease her, but she's being ridiculous. My sister began to cry, saying that I was shaming her for not being able to get pregnant and that I was making fun of her. I tried to defend myself and tell her that's not what I meant. She wouldn't listen and ran out of the store. Everyone in the store was staring at us. They were looking at me like I was a complete monster after hearing what my sister said. My mother said that I should have just let my sister have the seat. I know this whole thing must seem so small and stupid because it's about a chair. I don't know if I am the jerk in this situation or not. The hotel you wanted to stay at no longer exists. Back in the late 90s, I worked bar in a small town in rural Ireland. About 500 people, 3 pubs, 1 hotel. It's a wee seaside village and quite picturesque, and is therefore plagued by tourists during any holidays. We lived directly opposite the hotel. The hotel was about to be razed to the ground and rebuilt without the 60 years of nicotine stains. The demolish was due to start in January, and the work was due to be completed sometime in 2003. It's a small town. Everyone knows everything as long as it's about someone else's business. The hotel's reception phone number is 1 number away from my parents' landline number. It's New Year's Eve, or more accurately, 4 a.m. on New Year's Day. I'm home from my shift dealing with drunk jerks that, as this was in the 90s, want nothing but Baileys and cream de menthe shots and Bacardi breezers, with the occasional Irish coffee and a pint of Guinness that they'll order last as an afterthought and then complain about the wait. 4 a.m., my parents' living room. I'm having a wee decompress and a whiskey. Phone rings. Instinct kicks in. Town name Harbor Bar. Happy New Year. A slurred Belfast accent winds into my auditory canal. For most people reading this, when you think of an Irish accent, you probably think of a Cork or Galway accent, nice and lyrical. This is not the case with a spidey Belfast accent. Think of a dentist drill that runs on tonic wine ordering McDonald's through its nasal passages. All right, I've had a cracking time tonight. We're booking the same nights for next year. Room 109, Jamie Jerkface. Me. Oh, sorry mate. The hotel is closing in January and reopening in 2003. And the number for reception is 555-5545. This is a private residence. How the heck would you know that? You said this was the bar. Just put me through to reception, you lazy jerk. Me. Hey, buzz off, mate. Hangs up. Phone rings again. Don't you dare hang up on me, you cow lover. Belfast people often accuse the rurals of cow loving, which is odd because pigs are so much lower maintenance and you can test cosmetics on them to pretty them up. Town name hotel reception is 555-5545. This is a private residence, 555-5554. Don't call again. This happens a few more times because the daft drunk jerk is just hitting redial. It escalates with varying degrees as we've both been drinking, me to a lesser extent. I unplug the phone from the wall. A few minutes pass, I'm formulating a plan. I plug the phone back in. The phone rings. I put on my best receptionist voice. Good morning, town name hotel reception. How can I help you? Is this Mr. Jerkface from room 109? How may I be of service? That's better. I want to book for the next year's same night. Certainly, Mr. Jerkface. We have a 50% loyalty discount as your previous guest. Same days? Right. Okay, that's all booked in for next year. Arriving on the morning of the 31st, yes? Brilliant. Wonderful. We will see you then. That year, I went away to uni, came back for Christmas. Many things happened in the time in between, but then New Year's Eve came along. My folks and I were in the living room looking out at a gigantic hole that used to be the hotel, and our other windows look out but over the bay, and having a few beers. A car we don't recognize pulls up opposite the hole where the hotel used to be, and 3 confused-looking Belfast Spideys get out beside the big hole where town name hotel was. Something clicks in the back of my head, and I'm just laughing. I explained the whole thing to my dad, who I'd relayed the story to. These jerks drove about an hour to get here just to find out they've got nowhere to stay. We enjoy the show and open fresh tins as they start screaming at each other in front of our house. It was a fun New Year's Eve. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend she can't show me any more TikToks? The last few months, TikTok has become my 20 male, girlfriend's 20 female, only personality trait. Sitting watching TV together? TikTok. Laying in bed? TikTok. Standing around making breakfast? TikTok. I wouldn't really care, except she insists that I watch every video with her. Every time I look away, it's, oh, look at this one. and then she proceeds to show me the 100th unfunny video of the day. She has a bad habit of making me watch her on her phone, showing me literally every single thing that comes on her screen. Whatever, I can just nod and pretend I care. But now she'll show me these stupid videos and then try to explain why they're funny to me when I don't laugh, which only annoys me more. The second I wake up until the second I go to sleep, she's trying to show me TikToks. Clearly, she hadn't gotten the message that I literally do not care what these random unfunny teens post on the internet. I've told her before to take it easy with showing me the TikToks because I don't find them enjoyable like she does. But she continues to constantly show me more, only now she adds this, "Oh, this is the last one. I swear it's really funny." Spoiler, it's not. This morning I had been awake for all of 2 minutes when the TikTokscapade started. 3 waste of time videos later, I rolled over to ignore them better, and she got all sad and tried guilt-tripping me about watching those stupid things. Well, I finally had enough and rolled over and told her she's not allowed to show me TikToks anymore. They're annoying, boring, and a waste of time, and I can't stand to watch another single video. She called me a jerk and said I really hurt her feelings, but unfortunately, I really do not care. I hate TikTok, it's a cancer. And besides, it's not like I'm saying I hate anything she's created. Am I the jerk? Edit. So I've had a few questions about shared interests and this being her hobby. Her and I have been together for over 3 years, and this girl is the most talented artist, dancer, and writer I've ever met. So many passions I love about her. We're both in college, living in the same building, so we spend basically all of our time together. We have plenty of things we do together. Video games, movies, cooking, we even make puzzles together. The only thing that gets to me is the dang obsession with TikTok. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.